When I was first asked to do this, I suppose I was kind of feeling like, I don't know, like I'm not really sure about what I talk about and I'm not like an expert on anything. And then I thought again, and I kind of get asked the same questions every day, whether it be through an interview or through young girls and boys messaging me on Snapchat or online, on Twitter and Instagram. And the questions are usually, how did you get into your job so young? What difficulties do you face in your job, and how do you stay so happy all the time when you're so busy? And so I kind of reply to these questions, and I've answered interviews and given these answers, but I've never really told like the whole story behind things, and I've never really given a full answer or ever actually explained like the whole truth, I suppose. It's always just been little tastes, maybe because I've been a bit scared, or there's never been the right time, or just not the right platform. And so being asked to do this today, I was like, okay, well, there's the platform. And timing-wise, I feel like now more than ever, it's so important for people with a platform and people with a following to show transparency and to show truth and honesty behind the highlight reel of Instagram and Twitter and behind all the flashing lights and cameras and everyone's filtered, edited images and stuff. For someone that has got people that look up to them, to be honest about their experiences in hope that maybe someone in this audience or someone that's watching it at home online, hello, might relate to something I say or might be going through something that I've been through before, and it could help them come out the other way or just give them some kind of hope. So I'm going to talk about myself and my life, starting all the way back from when I was born in Bristol. I grew up, which is like a small city outside of London, and Bristol's an amazing place. I don't know if anyone's been there before, but growing up there, like people are really happy. I always felt safe. Like it was beautiful. It was absolutely lovely. My mum's Swedish and Scottish actually, and my dad's from Somalia, but they're both British. So I grew up with them in a nice little house, well, very little house, in St. Paul's in Bristol. And when I was about 3, my dad went to jail, which at the time, I suppose I was 3 years old, so I didn't really know what was going on. But around that stage of him first going to jail, it all felt kind of normal. So I grew up with my younger brother, who's 19 now, 2 years below me. And my strongest memories of around that time of the initial experience of going to visit him in jail, and we'd get into the car and we'd have like our duvet and you'd get little sweets, and it always felt like a little road trip. It was never like, oh, this is a scary big place. But thinking back on it now, like you'd go as a tiny little child, you'd fall asleep in the car and end up outside this huge grey building, get searched by dogs, and then have to sit across a table and have a conversation with a man that you were slowly not really recognising or not really showing much interest to, because he was always there and I was always at home, and I was having this life with my mum, and my aunties and my nan and granddad on his side of my family were always so supportive and did everything that I suppose a dad would do, that I didn't ever feel like I was missing out on anything. So when I'd go to nursery or when I'd go to primary school and everybody would be talking, I never felt like I was missing out on anything, and my life seemed perfect, apart from these weird little trips that we'd have to keep on doing to prisons in Wales and, I don't know, across the other side of the sea. So that went on. I kind of continued to visit him and have this distant relationship with my dad, and it wasn't like one long sentence that he got. It was always like maybe like a year or 2 and then come out and go back in. And then by the age of 10, I think around 10, it kind of got a bit exhausting. And I remember thinking, I'm starting to go to my friends' houses now and I'm seeing their family setups, and they've got these amazing relationships with their dads, and their dad's always there and takes them out to trips. And I was like, well, mine doesn't do that. And yeah, I have amazing aunties and nan and granddad that do stuff, but that's not really fair. Like, you should probably be making a bit more effort to stop doing bad things. And I was at the age where I realized, like, it's a choice. It's not something that you're forced to do. You don't have to be in jail, basically. So I decided to stop visiting him at 10, or around 10, 11. And I remember one day he'd come home, not home, but he'd come to my nan and granddad's house where I was at the time, and he asked to speak to me, and I was just like, no, I don't want to speak to you anymore. And I'd also kind of realised like that he wasn't so good to my mum, and just all these things kind of started to make sense to me at that age, and I just completely cut off contact with him. My little brother decided to still see him, but I was just kind of over it. So went past primary school, into secondary school now, and this is where I kind of start talking about my career. I've always been like a loud, like show-offy, performy, artsy person, where I'd go downstairs and perform the No Doubt album with dance routines and acting segments to my mum and stepdad, like, come on, watch me! And like make all the family relatives sit down and watch my serious performance of like, I don't know, Bob the Builder. So I did all of that stuff, started secondary school and was like, yeah, like loved it, made amazing friends, had an amazing childhood basically, and early teens. Everything was perfect, enjoyed it. And I remember having conversations with like family members and stuff in like year 7 and 8, and they'd be like, what do you want to be when you're older? What do you want to do? And I'd always be like, I'm not really sure how I'm going to get there, but like I'm definitely going to be on TV, or I'm going to be someone that's in the adverts or on that screen. And like part of me really, really believed that I would, and I'm not sure where it came from, but it was kind of like an inner thing of like, well, I'm going to do that because there's nothing else I want to do. I've never even allowed any other career option to enter my mind. It's just been like, yep, I'm going to be this person and that's going to happen. And thinking back on it now, it's like, I'm not really sure if that's like a naivety or just like in my own little glorious bubble of like dream, but it was real enough to me at the time, and yeah, it obviously worked out in the end. But yeah, so I always had this idea, went through school and got to year 10. Does anyone remember Skins, the show? Yeah, Skins. So that was shot in Bristol, and they would go around the schools to cast for Skins. So I was 15 and they came to our school and I was like, right, this is my chance. I'm going to go in there and wow everyone, like this really excited little girl. And they came in and I did that. I don't even really remember my performance, but I know I was so excited and literally like in the hallway to my friends like, yeah, smashed it. So did that, ended up getting to the last round of like, I don't even know how many hundreds of kids they'd seen to be one of the main characters. And then got to the last audition, did it, left thinking, yeah, this is it, like I've got it. And actually sat in my kitchen once. I remember like having this conversation with mum and being like, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna be famous. Like, how am I gonna tell my friends? Like, so convinced that this was gonna be it, that like no one could tell me any difference. And I kind of missed that confidence that I had then, because I suppose as you get older, reality and everything else, and it doesn't seem so real. But yeah, super, super confidence. And then I didn't get it. And I was like, oh, right. What now? And half of it made me feel like I don't want to do it anymore. Like I don't want to act, and I don't want to put myself out there and get so convinced and tell all my friends that I'm going to be like the next, I don't know, Jennifer Lawrence, and then not have it. But the other half of me was like, well, no, out of all of these hundreds of kids, I'm obviously good enough to get to that stage, so why not carry on and keep pushing forward and going for more auditions? So that summer, I went and joined an acting class and applied for all these auditions and went out and just did as much as I could, because I still had this like huge hunger inside of me. And then got to year 11 and continued with it and was like, yep, this is what I want to do. We were choosing our A-levels and everything after that. So I went on to sixth form in Cotton School in Bristol, and I chose, what did I do? I did sociology, performing arts BTEC, media and English lit. And so I remember starting those, but even in my mind the whole time I was always thinking like, okay, yeah, these are just what I'm supposed to do. Like this is just the next step that you're supposed to take after school, because that's what everyone does and it's proper, but don't lose sight of your amazing little dream of being, you know, Selena Gomez without the singing voice. So yeah, had that. And then there was like a holiday in that period of time. Hang on, mate, let me have water because my mouth's dry. I knew that would happen to me. Out of everyone, I'm the one that gets dry throat halfway through. But yeah, so there was a holiday in between, like a school holiday, and I remember going up to London because I had a family member that lived there, and I had a couple of auditions in London, and I felt like, I don't know, anyone coming from a smaller city always assumes that like London is the place you need to be, like that's where everything happens, and if you want to be a star, you go to London, which is the case for some people, but some people can do it in their hometown. So yeah, I went to London and I spent some time there and I met some people, and I thought, well, I'm nearly finishing my first year of sixth form, why don't I apply for colleges in London? And even though everything in my life was perfect in Bristol, I had like great friends, great family, everything's really exciting because you've just left school and everyone can go out and woo. I just thought London's the place where you kind of need to be if you want to do my job. And I still had that, come on mate, you can do it, you're going to be famous, in my mind. So I applied for like 5 colleges and came back to Bristol. I don't think I even told anyone at the time that I'd applied for that many because I didn't want to do the disappointment of not actually getting in. But I applied for them anyway. Came back to Bristol, told everyone, okay, now I might go there. It's the waiting process. We had a summer holidays. No, sorry, it was before a summer holidays, another gap where I went up to London again. And I met a boy, and he became my boyfriend, and then I was completely infatuated, 16 years old, it's your first love, and you're in this like whole dream world, and I was thinking like, wow, this is perfect. Like, if I move to London, I'm gonna get into these colleges, I'll have my boyfriend there, I've got friends that I've made, and everything's just gonna be like an absolute dream in my mind. And then that summer holiday, after, so I've finished my first year of sixth form now, and it's the holidays before I decide if I'm going to go to college in London or stay in Bristol. But to be fair, I hadn't really reapplied in Bristol, so London was my only option. I hadn't really got that push in my mind. And it was July, and it was halfway through the holidays, and I'm kind of half in London, half in Bristol. And then my boyfriend at the time was killed. And so as a 16-year-old girl that has all this like dreams and everything's perfect in her mind, it was kind of like, oh, like that's not supposed to happen. Like what do I do now? And I still remember the exact feeling, because it wasn't an illness or anything like that. It was a complete accident, like nothing to do with him. Just having so many questions at the time, and also feeling like for the first time that life's not really fair, and like bad stuff does happen to good people, which in my mind I couldn't really fathom that before. And it's like the worst reality check in the world. So I had all these ideas of what London was going to be like, and I had all these plans, and then that kind of just got broken, and my happy bubble completely fell down beneath me. And I remember feeling like, oh, like I don't know what to do. And I pushed away everyone that was close to me in Bristol, like my mum and my friends and everyone that really cared for me, because I didn't feel like I wanted to be around anyone that didn't understand the pain that I was going through at that point. But at the same time, I was so young that my decisions weren't always going to be the best. So I didn't stay in Bristol. I literally went straight to London the day that it happened, and stayed with his family, who were amazing and lovely and like looked after me and everything. But I don't know if it was the right thing to do. But at the time I was just like, I can't. I just want to be around people that reminded me of him, and around like familiarity, basically. So did that. At home, everybody's worried about me, like my mum and my friends and everyone I kind of don't want to see or speak to. And I suppose the reason why I'm telling this now is because I didn't really have anyone to speak to around that time that had gone through anything similar, and I didn't really know what you were supposed to do, and all the thoughts and the feelings that I was feeling were like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be loved again, or oh my gosh, I don't even know if I can look at a boy again, or how am I going to be, and kind of feeling like this is the worst thing in the world that could ever happen to anyone. Literally, that was how I felt. And even at some points, like, I don't really want to be here, and if I disappeared, then, you know, it would just be like that, and that's what happens in life. And just really dark, horrible thoughts for a 16-year-old to have, but I didn't allow anything else to come into my mind at that point. Luckily, I believe in God, and I prayed throughout a lot of it, and would kind of like have my own thoughts and pray every day and be like, okay, there's something, it's gonna pass. Like, I believe in like no pain, no matter how severe, lasting forever. Like, you could be going through the worst thing now, but in a week or in a year or in months, it's never gonna be the exact same pain. It's always gonna like fade down a bit. So anyway, I had those thoughts in my mind. This happened in July, and I'm supposed to be starting college in September. So the whole time I'm grieving, and I'm trying to deal with things in my own mind, and I'm in this like horrible space, but I'm knowing that in September I'm about to go to a school where I know nobody, and I've got to be like this person that I'm used to being, that's happy, and like, look at me, and this is supposed to be my shot at like chasing my dream and everything, despite this dark place that I'm in at that time. So anyway, it comes to September, I'm starting to deal with it a bit better, but obviously still in a bad place. And I've gone to college, and I just remember the first day coming into college feeling like this weight off my shoulder, or just feeling kind of like light, because no one there knew me, no one had known what I'd just been through. It was a complete clean slate, and it was just like, well, I can be this person and not feel, I don't know, kind of guilty for being happy, and not feel like I'm not allowed to smile because a terrible thing has just happened. So I went to college. I've moved in with the family member now that lives in London, and I'm going to college. I'm in this little bubble of happiness while I'm there, and then coming home and still feeling sad, but things are slowly starting to get a little bit better and a bit easier to deal with, and I'm starting to talk about things more. And just like, I think what I learned in that period is that if you can kind of find something that takes you out of a sadness. If you are feeling low or you are feeling down, if you can find that one thing that makes you forget about that pain for even a day or an hour or whatever, then do that as much as you can. So that's what I did. I went to college, I was out, and then I'd come home, and throughout a period of time, I'm 17 at this point now in college, and I've gone back to stay with my family member over the break, but the family member that I'm living with is heavily involved in drugs. So I'm living in this quite unsafe environment where there's drugs being taken around me, and I'm kind of coming home from college and just going straight to my bedroom and shutting the door and ignoring whatever's going on outside of me. And I've got like my mum and my other family members who are saying, come home because you don't need to be around that and everything. But I knew that if I went back to Bristol, I would just kind of fall into a trap of something that I didn't want to do. And being in London made me feel like I'm actually chasing my dream now. And I've just started to move forward, and I've just started to meet people that have the same aspirations as me and want to do the same things as me. So I didn't go back as much as they'd be persuading me. My mum would come down and say, come back. And I didn't. And it's a good thing I didn't, because not long after that, I met some people that work for this company called Jump Off, which was like this huge event in London, which Professor Green was actually noticed from it, but it's like a battle event. So they had like rap battles and dance battles, and it was a live event, but they also had an office space where they had a YouTube channel, and they would let me use the cameras there, and they taught me how to edit, and they taught me basically how to be a presenter. Like I'd come there after college and stay till like 10 o'clock at night and just be like eager to learn everything. Like even if I was making teas or just sitting there listening to conversations, I was just on them, like teach me. And that was where I started feeling like, gosh, is this actually happening? Even though I wasn't getting paid, I wasn't even doing anything. I was just in a space that I imagined myself being in. So I was there, I made my first YouTube video there, just literally with them letting me take their camera upstairs, and like, I can't even remember. I did want to play it, but it would probably go on for ages. It was just me sat in front of the camera, like doing a speedy makeup tutorial. So it was like a joke version of like the makeup tutorials you see nowadays. But back then, no one was really getting paid for YouTube or anything. So I was just doing it for fun. And then I'm gonna kind of rush the story. I'll probably write a book one day, but yeah, I carried on doing this. And so I got my first job there, and I was working at Urban Outfitters as well at the same time, because I had literally no money. I used to do this trick where I'd pretend that I'd lost my oyster, because I didn't have money for oyster fare to get on the trains. So I'd go through and I'd be like, oh gosh, I've just lost my oyster card. Can you let me through? I need to get to college. And they'd do it. And I did that on literally like every train station around my area until they realised like this girl's having a laugh. So did that, working at Urban Outfitters, going to Jump Off every day, and doing college for like literally about 8 months, 9 months, until I decided to leave college because Jump Off was starting to pay me, and I felt like I don't even know if it was it was the right thing to do, but at that time in my mind I was like, I'm basically getting trained in the job that I want to do instead of being in college, learning how to be in a job. I'm doing it firsthand. So left college, stayed at Jump Off, and not long after that, got a screen test, which is like a presenter's version of an audition for Copper 90 to do a series with them, and they're now the biggest football channel in Europe, but they needed a girl presenter, and I went down and I had no experience other than what Jump Off had trained me, and I got the job and did a series with them called Football Virgin. You can find it online, it's hilarious, but yeah, did that, and from that led on to them taking me to Brazil for 2 months, and I filmed a show with Hyundai around the World Cup. So it was basically like we did a tour of the 12 cities in Brazil, and then I did like a whole show during the World Cup and everything like that. So then that job came, and it was kind of like a spiral effect after that of every job, but I'm still living at my family member's house, which was a horrible environment to be in. My food was getting stolen out the fridge, my phone was getting stolen, and like it just wasn't safe. But I couldn't afford to move out because I hadn't got enough money by that point. So I've come back from Brazil, a camera's gone missing from my room. I think this was like the point where I was like, okay, I need to leave. And I had a friend called Penny who literally like scooped me under her wing. She let me pay her cheap rent to stay with her. And the reason why I mention her is because I feel like it's so important when you are going through stuff to have a friend or just somebody around you that completely lifts you up and fills you with positivity. And I was still like just turned 18 at this point, so she was like this angel that came into my life, and whenever I had doubts, she was the one that lifted me up, and whenever I felt low, she would fill me with all this positive energy and basically saved my state of mind around that time when everything had gone well. But I'm running out of time, so I'm just going to skip forward completely to now. I'm obviously 22 years old. I've worked for MTV and all these places. I live on my own now. I have a flat, and I feel so lucky that I didn't go back home and I didn't crumble under pressure, and I didn't let the situations that I feel like understandably a lot of other people in would want to not do anything and want to just stay inside and want to just quit everything they're doing, because it's disheartening and it's a strange state of mind to be in. But my message through me sharing this story is just that as hard as things get, as I said at the beginning, don't let that control you. Always keep in mind the vision that you had at the beginning, regardless of the circumstances, regardless of the situations. There's a quote that I always say that's like, everything will be okay in the end, and if it's not okay, it's not the end. And I really believe that's true, because hello, like, hi, I'm here. And I only want to like spread the message of positivity to everyone, and that was one thing that I kept in my mind throughout. I never lost faith, I never lost hope that you can achieve your goals even though things are bad and even though things aren't going your way. And yeah, stay true to your heart. Thank you.